Hi everyone, kia ora, tēnā koutou katoa, and a very warm greeting to you from Sunny Hills School in Auckland, New Zealand. My name is Justine Driver and I'm really proud to represent the Kiwi Factor here for the Google Education on Air conference happening around the world today. So let's get started. So welcome along. My discussion today is around how Google Suite, Google for Education, can be your zero to hero solution. I'd like to take you a journey of two schools. I've been very fortunate over the last few years to have led educational change in the field of e-learning across two different schools, at Pakuranga Heights and at Sunny Hills School. Pakuranga Heights is a medium to low socio-economic decile school with 530 odd children, from a very diverse multicultural background. Sunny Hills School, on the other hand, is a high decile school, 580 students, and again a very diverse population, but of a different ethnic makeup. So I'd like to share my journey with you today about leading change with e-learning at these two schools. And the main factor that has been so successful has been using Google Apps for Education. Underpinning everything that has happened with my thinking around e-learning has been that I was fortunate to go to the Google Teacher Academy in Sydney in 2014, and from that my thinking around how might we redesign our pedagogy for our learners in order to be future focused, collaborative and creative. This has underpinned everything that I have been working towards in the education sector for our learners. And when I say learners, I don't just mean our students, I mean our teachers and educators as well. And I believe I have been doing this at a local level, from my school, from my work with our GEG NZ team, and on a wider scale by being able to present at conferences. So let's get started. Today's been brought to you by the letter C. The C for learners and the C for leaders. They both intertwine. So, C for learners. Today's brief talked about collaboration, creativity, connectivity, curiosity, critical thinking, citizenship, and communication. Now, as a leader, there are a whole lot of other C's that you need to think about as well. And that is in the terms of change. Change is a big factor for us as leaders and everybody to try and improve and be the best that we can be, and having a growth mindset. With being a leader, you have to be really considered with your approach. You have to really think about your context. You have to provide enough challenge so that you can read your staff and your learners and to see if you're going at the right pace. You need to be able to consolidate the learning that is happening. You need to be able to champion the cause. You may have a different outlook and opinion, but having that future focus in your mind at all times, it's really important to stick to your guns and keep that vision close by. And along the way, you need to celebrate. You need to celebrate those little milestones that your staff are making and that learners are making so that they can feel successful in their journey towards being a future-focused, innovative teacher. So I just want to go back in time and just phrase where I've come from and setting the scene and how a lot of this change has happened. And many of the things that happened at Pakuranga Heights School have been echoed here on my work at Sunny Hills as well. So I'd just like to take you back to mid-2012 at Pakuranga Heights. At the time, we had really unreliable access to the internet. We had about 1 to 4 desktop PCs per classroom, and we started out by switching our servers over to doing Google Apps for Education. At the time, we had just a landing site only, and it was only open to staff because we didn't have a very reliable infrastructure to support any kind of use of technology. Even our school-owned teacher laptops were intermittent with their connectivity. So starting out with our staff and changing to Gmail was a big shift. Early in 2013, in terms 1 and 2, we then started to work collaboratively using Google Docs. We used Google Docs for our team evaluations. We used Google Calendars to share when we were having our release time and when we had school-wide events. And we had some essential school administration documents also shared with some of our curriculum responsibilities. And of course, things like duty rosters, which are really important. Late into 2013, we were really lucky to get snapped. That is a school network upgrade. At the same time of the cables being upgraded, we also were fortunate to have a wireless upgrade as well. We were able to switch the staff into using Google Sites, and every staff member had a trial site set up so that they could record their pedagogical learning and knowledge and to reflect on their teaching as inquiry. We were also able, in term 3 of 2013, to start out with class blogging. This gave us an opportunity to really open up the walls of our classrooms and to see what was, share and celebrate what was happening for our learners. And then later on in term 4, we started tri-blogging. Some of these things we'll be talking about a little bit later on. In 2014, we then rolled out Google Apps for Education to all our students. And all our year 5 and 6 learners at the time, that was 140 students, all had their own Google account, which was fantastic. We then also switched to having all staff members doing all their weekly planning on Google too, which was awesome. It was a great way to open up the walls of our classroom so that we could really share our professional knowledge with each other. We increased the use of our devices with Chromebooks and iPads, and we trialled BYOD. Classes participated in Twitter chats as well, and all our staff were involved with the Connected Educator Month. Then into 2015, this just grew. And because we had the good infrastructure, we then took Google Apps for Education down to 3-4. So then we had 300 children, all on individual accounts, which was fantastic. And we explored a lot of different ways of learning too. So one of the first things I did as a leader was to get staff on board with what the Google Suite actually entailed. So we looked really closely at having a landing site or a landing page set out as a portal for all our staff members to be able to see what was involved in the Google Suite. So this was pushed out, so when teachers logged on and they clicked on Chrome, automatically all of their Gmail, their Drive, their calendar, their blog would open up automatically. And we forced this out through using the Chrome Management Console. We also had links to their appraisal. They had links into their Hapara teacher dashboard and into a whole lot of administration sites as well. So by having a school landing page for our staff was really an important first step so that staff could understand what apps were available as part of that Google Suite. One of the first things that we did, as I discussed, was we started blogging. And blogging is a vehicle for change, connectivity, collaboration, critical thinking, and to enable our learners to really grow as citizens. So not only online and how we communicate with each other, but through those quality commenting. The purpose was to share our learning in the classroom with the community, and it really fostered our motto at the time, which was reaching new heights together. The expectation that I laid out was that I would expect to see one blog post per week set out from the class teacher, and that we would be really focusing on quality commenting, being good digital citizens, and making connections. Now this presentation will be available to you at the conclusion of the Google Education on Air event, because it forms as a portal to other great resources that many New Zealand educators have contributed to. Being as part of the Google Educator Group New Zealand, we run spotlights on air, and this spotlight to the right, which you will be able to link into later, links to a great one on blogging by Dorothy Burt and Fiona Grant. Also on the left, you'll see that there are other presentations that have been hyperlinked in there as a portal for you to find out more information about some of these strategies as well. So blogging was a great portal for us to get started. It really opened up the walls of our classroom. But one thing that we also did after a little while was to do tri-blogging. So tri-blogging was to help us to consolidate our learning with blogging, and it was also set up to help challenge our teachers as well. Most of the teachers were really good at doing the one blog post per week, and as it was new, people did feel challenged and they were wondering how they could fit in blogging and sharing the learning that was happening in their classroom. So one way was to set up the tri-blogging challenge. Now, tri-blogging is when you have 3 classrooms all linked together. One week, classroom A would be the focus classroom, and classroom B and C would look at that classroom blog and give quality comments. The next week, classroom B was the focus and A and C would give comments. And then in the 3rd week, classroom C was the focus class, and then A and B would give the quality comments. Now, through the tri-blogging strategy, this was really, really successful, and the amount of posts that the teachers put up during those weeks improved. It also showed staff members how the posting to your blog and sharing the learning that was happening in the classroom could really engage our learners and engage a wider audience as well. There are links there to a video from our Teach Meet NZ, which happened way back in March of 2014, where we talked about the tri-blogging challenge, and I hope you enjoy that little snippet when you watch it later. And then we've got a whole link there to crowdsourced Google slide doc about encouraging blogging engagement. So I hope you find those of use to you later on. Thirdly, we then started to do blogging with our Year 5 and 6 learners. So each of the students had a blog set up for them. So not only did we have the class blog, we also then had the children in our Year 5s and 6 classes. So these are our 9, 10 and 11-year-olds being able to reflect on their learning journey and sharing their learning. Now, this was all related back to our Pakuranga Heights learner dispositions of being a self-manager, investigator, communicator, challenge taker, team player, and thinker. These dispositions were our take on the New Zealand key competencies, which are at the heart and foundation of our curriculum in New Zealand. So there are some links there that guided the children around how they could create a really good piece of evidence and how they could reflect on being a great Pakuranga Heights learner. And so there's a template there as well that the students would use once they had done their post on their learning that they could then reflect on, which worked very well. In order for staff to keep curious and to consolidate and to give them a little bit of a challenge, each week we would have what we would call a smackdown. A smackdown is a little punch of PD, or professional learning and development, as we call it here in New Zealand. And each week we would have a shared Google Slides deck, and we would have 1 or 2 people sharing on a Friday morning for no more than 2 minutes a great idea that they have discovered with using digital technologies, with blogging, and with using the Google Suite for education. It was great to foster collaboration and a way of sharing that meant that all of our staff members could take the lead. It wasn't just our staff looking towards me as the formalised leader, but I could then go and shoulder tap some great practice that was happening and say, hey, that's an awesome idea. How about you add that to our shared weekly smackdown, and you can present that to staff. And so it really empowered our educators, and so that they felt that they had something to offer when they may have felt that they weren't the most technical person out there, but they had a worthy idea to be able to share. So once we had our class blogs going and teachers were feeling confident with using blogging and using Google Apps for Education, we then launched it with the students. So that's just taking you back to 2014. We made a really big event of it. It was a great celebration. We had all our year 5-6 classes, which were 5 classes at the time, come and join us in the hall. We gave out the Chromebooks, that were school-owned devices, and we had all the children doing a great big countdown with party poppers and launching Google Apps for Education. If you click on the link, the red link and the green link, there are links to presentations that I did with both our students and our parent community as well. This was extended in 2015 with all our middle classes as well, so you can see a lot more children in our shared learning space there. And we were really fortunate to be able to have most of our staff members go along to the Google Apps for Education Summit as well. So we were fostering and developing teachers' professional knowledge all the way as we went along. When we purchased Chromebooks as our preferred device when we had BYOD and both school-owned devices, and so I had to set them up myself with very little tech support. And so there are some links here around how you can go about doing that when you don't have much technical knowledge yourself. So having things like a barcoder to record the codes and serials on the boxes and quickly scanning them into a spreadsheet was really quick and really awesome. Getting your team around you to label each of the devices and to store these was really important. And for all our devices, we popped this little sticker on so that, as a deterrent for any thieves. And I was really pleased to say that not one of our devices ever went missing. This is how we would store our Chromebooks in our classes and in our shared learning spaces. So we did a bit of number 8 wire thinking. We used initially metal filing cabinets with just dish rack drawers in there, and they were connected with all the chargers and everything in there. And then we went on to developing a cupboard version, which was quite good because we didn't have to worry about the drawers moving in and out and the wear and tear on the cords with that movement. Each day, children would just come and we would have plastic containers, and the children would take their 10 Chromebooks across to the classroom to be used and then returned at the end of the day to be charged up, ready for the next day's use. We had a very handy property manager at the time who, as you can see with those plugs, has cable tied them all nicely so it just doesn't become a health and safety issue as well. There are links there to crowdsourced shared slide decks around how to store devices. So I hope you find those slide decks there very interesting for you too. So as I spoke before, I can't recommend enough the Chrome Management Console. As a school, it's a worthwhile investment so that you can set up how your devices run and going into the back end of setting up your teacher organisations and seeing what could be turned on and turned off for different users. For Google Plus, for example, is 13 years and over, so teachers in primary schools in New Zealand do not have that activated, and then setting up your past staff members, etc. There's a great discussion on our virtual learning network there with suggested features that you can follow. Another thing that we had to ensure that we had collaborative practice and a clear, visible learning was to employ the Hapara teacher dashboard. This was like opening up a traditional desk full of books with increased connectivity and collaboration for teachers and learners to connect. Our parent community at both Pakuranga Heights and Sunny Hills really value this because we can see inside every child's Google Drive. We can see the last time they modified a document. We can check on their Gmail, any posts that they have put up on their blogs, and linking it straight into our visible learning and commenting on students' work to give them feedback just in time. So the Google Suite makes admin really, really easy, and it's a total system solution for any school leader. All school planning is transparent and shared with every staff member. So therefore, there wasn't a worry about, oh, you know, I can just not do my planning this week. As a leader, you knew that your staff were being really professional and that they would share their work and planning, and you could see if priority learners were being targeted and whether those activities were appropriate. I've popped some links in there to our collaborative evaluations that we did, because they were a great enabler of us to really track and monitor student outcomes and to ensure that we had accelerated progress for our learners. And setting up admin sites and sites for policies and procedures was important, so that we didn't have to have a booklet created at the beginning of every year that was soon out of date. We can update our staff procedures just in time and just as things happen. In New Zealand, we have our teaching as inquiry model, where teachers have to investigate their actions and the impact they have on student outcomes. And so by having a Google Collaborative system set up for reading, writing and mathematics, teachers could come together and investigate closely where their learners were and what steps they could take to accelerate their progress. So there are some links there to our learning sites that helped staff to investigate this. At the same time, we also made sure we had pedagogy happening and a deep understanding of changed practice and what it meant to be a future-focused, innovative learning practitioner. So we looked really closely at linking our strategic goals with improving writing and mathematics through using digital technologies over those 2 years, having a growing understanding of digital citizenship throughout our school and with our learners, developing Creative Commons policies, and using higher order use of the devices, so that we weren't just substituting work that we could do in a book, but we could actually amplify and transform or modify and redefine our use of technology. So there's some links there for you to pursue as well. In 2016, this year, I had a big change of context. I was really fortunate to win the principal's position at Sunny Hills School. With doing that, Sunny Hills is a school that has had Google Apps for Education for the last 3 years. However, the staff members were not sure about what it meant to be a Google school. What was Google? They just thought that they had the mail and a couple of shared documents in a drive. So one of the very first things I did within the very first week was to set up a landing site for the staff. And so it looked very, very similar to what I had set up at Pakuranga Heights, with the added feature of being able to add in some of our important documents. So we had tabs set up for our term at a glance document, our rosters, which were all our timetables, and new learning that was happening with our Tinker Time, and creating a minute portfolio as well. Very quickly, we started classroom blogging. Blogging was already happening at Sunny Hills, however, not to the extent that it was happening at Pakuranga Heights, and I could see the value in harnessing something that they were already doing, but taking it to that next level. Being a new leader coming into a school, you don't want to create a lot of change. And so I was just really passionate about improving something that they were currently doing. So class blogs on our school website there, we had a separate page tab set up for it, and every class has a blog link to there, and every family is encouraged to subscribe to their classroom blog. For connectivity, communication and citizenship, we continue to celebrate and share the messages of things that are happening at Sunny Hills through Facebook and Twitter, but also a huge use with Google Forms as well, where I can quickly get the feel of how people are feeling in the community. I have a principals email group where I pop out ideas and seek feedback back, which is really important. I can get ideas from staff members on topics really quickly, so using Google Forms is really important. Also collecting student voice around certain topics and certain areas. One of the major things that has been a real leverage for curiosity and collaboration and critical thinking and creativity has been to develop Tinker Time. So the purpose of Tinker Time is to create that collaborative curiosity by giving the students opportunity to tinker. Now, these are weekly sets of technologies for the students to explore, and they go around the classrooms. The teachers don't have to be experts, but they have to just give the children the opportunity to play and learn and grow and develop. So there's links there for you to explore, and this has been pivotal for us to be really future focused and enable our learners to be ready for a future where they're going to be required to be team players and critical thinkers and coders more readily than what they potentially are now. So today's been brought to you by the letter C for our learners and our leaders. I've been very mindful of the pace of change moving into Sunny Hills School, so I've been able to draw on how we made changes happen at Pakuranga Heights School and adapt them to our context here at Sunny Hills. And I just would like to finish with this saying, e hara takatoa, e te toa takatahi, e nā rei he toa takatini. Success is not the work of one, but the work of many. And I hope that you know through the use of the Google Suite for Education that the Google Suite really is your zero to hero solution, so that you can enable all of those great C's that you use. I can see one of the questions that we've got coming up, and I'll just pop back over to the live feed, and I'll stop screen sharing. Hi again, sorry, a couple of the questions that have come up just in the last 2 minutes that we've got. There's been a large vote for what apps did you use for teacher planning. So we used Docs and Sheets as a portal for Google Planning. We have them in a shared Google Drive, and in that Google Drive folder, we have just a planning folder. We have a naming convention, and each teacher uses the same naming convention. The advantage of having a sheet is that you could have one sheet for the whole term and just duplicate the page each week and then change it to what was required for your learning groups. To set up a dashboard for your school, I'm wondering whether you might be meaning about setting up a landing page. I used Google Sites for that, and I'm more than happy to share a template with you. I can link that in afterwards and add it to the presentation. Handling staff resistance has been really interesting, and it's about that slow, considered and measured change leadership that you have to undertake. That's why this year I have only started with the blogging. Next year at Sunny Hills, we're going to be doing the collaborative planning, and then continuing with our Tinker Time, and then moving forward after that, we'd be looking at using Google Sites as a portal for learning with the class and the community. So extending out our work with our blogging out further, which would be really, really important for us. So I'll just go through and just say thank you very much for joining in and tuning in. We've had 173 viewers, which I'm really pleased to have. And so thank you very much for listening and watching, and the slide deck will be up shortly with all the links to how I have gone about implementing those changes nice and slowly with staff. And thank you for your time today. Cheers.